1993 was an amazing year for the Super Nintendo. We saw the release of Secret of Mana, Illusions of Gaia, Super Mario All-Stars, Star Fox, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. The list goes on and on. There was tons of great games released that year for the Super Nintendo alone, plus many other great games for other systems as well. But there was one game in particular that I played at that time and I thought was flippin' amazing. Even though, yeah, I did play all those other games and those games held up in their own right. This game was a marvel at the time in my eyes. It just played so differently. The art style was unique and it was just something weird to me. And now we have it on the Nintendo Switch. 25th anniversary Flashback Collector's Edition. So today I want to take an up-close look, open this up just so you can see what comes in this collector's edition, and then look at the gameplay a little bit, see what kind of options we have with this game. I remember playing this on the Super Nintendo and just being entranced by the animation and the backgrounds and the little cutscenes. It was just something so different at the time for me. Does it hold up to today? I don't know. We're gonna have to find out. But the interesting thing with this is it was originally announced to be released for the Nintendo Switch, early to mid-June worldwide, between US and Europe, and it has not released in the US yet. This is the collector's edition from Europe, and it cost $39.99. After I imported it, it was about 50 bucks. The US version of this has been delayed until July 31st, so keep that in mind. I'll have a link if you want to take a look at it on Amazon. It's still up for pre-order. It's $39.99 for the collector's edition. Digitally, you can purchase the game when it comes out for 20 bucks. It doesn't come with any of the collector's edition stuff. Obviously, it's just a digital version. Is a collector's edition really worth it? I don't know. Let's go ahead and open it up and find out what we get. Let's do it. Okay, guys, so here is the 25th anniversary collector's edition box. The US version is going to be identical. Just wanted to point that out. US version just won't have the little Peggy logo and everything will be in English. This is the European release. Shows all the stuff you get inside the box, but we're going to take a look at that so we no longer need that. First up is the actual game and box that it comes in. Everything is styled after the European artwork, and that is going to be across the board. The US version is using the same artwork. Some little images of the back. All mine is in German, but like I said, US version will be in English. But the game, the European version, plays in English, so it's not a big deal. Inside, we do get the remastered soundtrack download. I may give that away. I don't typically download those things. And then the actual cartridge is there. Pretty cool stuff. So let's set that aside. Next up, we do get the little Steelbook Case. This is styled after a North American Super Nintendo cartridge. That's the same thing everybody's getting. Kind of an odd choice for a European market, but okay, right? The back of the Steelbook, you got a little story about the game. Pretty cool stuff. The one thing I want to point out is with mine, the two halves don't line up perfectly. I don't know if you can really see that. They're off by a hair. If you pushed it, you could see I'm pushing it a little bit. That's what I mean, like one half goes above the other half. You can kind of push it back into place, but it's still off by a hair. There's no indentation here to pry it open, so you kind of have to use your nails. And once that's open, that's what you're greeted to. You do get this little limited edition card with what number you got. The one thing I want to point out, the first thing I did when I first opened this was I pulled this little metal card out. And in doing so, I bent the heck out of it. So between trying to fix that, putting it back in, it's, kind of dented. No big deal, but I want to point that out. If you do get this edition, this card's probably not meant to be pulled out, so just leave it alone so you don't dent it like I did. You can probably kind of see it there. The other thing I want to point out is if you want to house your game into this case, it does not actually stay put. It doesn't lock into place. It just kind of flops around. You risk it popping out. I mean, I'm trying to flop it around. It doesn't really pop out all that often, but since it's not actually locked, it can fall out. So definitely something that needs to be pointed out. Next up, our manual. Pretty cool stuff since we typically don't get instruction booklets anymore. Now, this manual, I don't want to go over everything, but essentially all it is the original manual artwork, just everything re-edited for the Nintendo Switch. You can see, you know, the images are all low res, fuzzy looking game capture images, and then scans from the original manual. Nothing spectacular. I think it's kind of neat that it's done that way, but you know, some people might not like that, you know, use the actual graphics and redo the manual for the, you know, re-release of the game, but it does kind of have a little nostalgic touch to it doing it that way. A little bonus level design, you know, you get some maps and actually decent looking images in the back here. Some little sprite animations of the main character, and that's it. Nothing else in this book. The one thing I do want to point out with this little manual, like it or not, it does not fit in any of the boxes that the game comes with. So if you were hoping to house this into one of these two cases, it does not fit. You pretty much got to keep everything inside there if you want to keep everything together. So kind of unfortunate. For 40 bucks, this little setup, you know, was the only way I saw physically getting this game. So I pulled the trigger on it, and I'm decently happy so far. We got to pop this in and check it out and see, you know, what the game entails. But I really kind of wish this would have been a little cheaper. Digitally, the game is going to be 20 bucks. So essentially you're paying an extra $20 for a manual, you know, a crappy steelbook case and a soundtrack. If this was just released physically like this with nothing else, just the game, and sold for 20-25 bucks, I would definitely be happy with that. These extras, not really that important to me. So let's go ahead and pop this in the Switch, do a little gameplay, and talk about it. Let's do it. Okay guys, so here we go. Flashback running on the Nintendo Switch. I really did love this game back in the day on the Super Nintendo, even though I know it was originally developed for the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, depending upon where you are in the world. And it was actually released on the Amiga before the Sega, which is kind of weird. And it was originally released in '92, so this being the 25th anniversary, it's, you know, really celebrating the release of the Super Nintendo version, which was in '93. A lot of people prefer the Sega Genesis version. I've never been exposed to it, and just played the Super Nintendo one, and I'm really hoping that this game is at least similar. We can already see with the opening cinematic that the animations are a lot smoother. There's a lot more frames of animation compared to the Super Nintendo version. Makes me wonder if this is possibly a port from, you know, one of the computer versions or a later version of the game, because the Super Nintendo version for sure was not this smooth with the animations. Even though it's pretty much all the same animations, it just definitely wasn't this smooth and crisp and, you know, like I said, as much frames of animation. So we're not going to bother with the options because the options are all in game. But once we hit play, you got a few different profiles. You can, you know, have different save games. You're greeted to two options: the '93 Classic, which you would assume is a Super Nintendo version of the game. No tutorial, no rewind, original music, no FX to the graphics or anything like that. No filters and all that stuff. The modern version, you get tutorials, which are really a pain in the ass. I recommend just turning them off. Rewind mode, which definitely comes in handy. That's the biggest plus to this version of the game. The enhanced remastered music and sounds, which do sound really good from what I have played so far. And you do have some of the graphic filters. So we're going to go ahead and play the modern version. Depending upon the difficulty, you get so much rewind. Just for the sake of looking at the game, we're going with easy. We can already see, like, this is definitely using cutscenes from a different version of the game because they are a lot smoother. And these little tutorials, they plague you in the beginning of the game with a lot of basics. And it's fine because this game can be pretty challenging, but you're like in the middle of trying to do a jump or something and this stupid tutorial pops up, so I don't want them on. Now, before we start wandering off a little bit, I do want to show you the graphics options. So with the modern version, you do have the simulated CRT on, which is just like a curvature, like a, you know, a little curvature filter there with some very light scan lines. Kind of looks nice. I honestly prefer them to be off. I don't really care for simulated CRT on my high-def TV for most games, especially old school Super Nintendo games. I don't really care for any of that. So I'm turning that off. The next option, I don't understand it, but noise and static, to me, it just, it looks like there's something wrong with your TV. Why would you want to play with that on? So I turn that off. Side panels are just your bezels on the side there. Either nothing, or you get that like mirrored, blurred image of the gameplay, which looks fine. Can't really complain. And then the filter. These are just the differences between which version of the game you play. It's the same game. The modern version, you get rewind and all these filters just turned on. The classic version, there's no rewind, no tutorials, and pretty much all these options are off. So with the filter on, as you can see, everything is smoothed out. And I don't really like that. With it off, you get the pixels, little sharp pixels there. And then to take it even further, if you turn off the anti-alias, the pixels to me get even more defined and look even better in my opinion. This is all subjective. Some people are going to prefer some of these filters on, or some of these options on or off, or a combination, you know what I'm saying? But for me, I actually like to only leave the side panels on and the bloom. The bloom just, just kind of the colors look a little nicer with it on, to me anyway. But definitely, now that I have it set this way, this is essentially just playing the classic version that's on this, cartridge, but with the rewind feature. It's the same game either way you play it. And, it is what it is, essentially. The only other thing that's going to be different is the sound. So in the sound options, you can change levels or whatever. But the 8-bit mode, I'm not 100% why it's called 8-bit mode. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe the music, that it was originally from was an 8-bit, processor. I don't know. I'm not that technical with these things. But this game was, if this is celebrating the Super Nintendo, this is a 16-bit system. But if you turn 8-bit mode on, you just get the classic sounds and music. With it off, you get the remastered stuff, which I think really sounds good. No matter how you play it, I actually really like having it with the remastered music and sounds. Just sounds really good. So now that we have the tutorial off, everything's looking crisp and nice to me. And this is really how I like to play the game. For $40, I think it's definitely pricey for what you're getting, because essentially between the music and the sounds and then the smoother cutscenes, it's the same game that you played on the Super Nintendo back in the day, or pretty much any system that you played it on, minus a few variances here and there. And overall, if you love this game back in the day, it might be a game that you could still get into now. And I love having those options of revisiting the classics. I do own this game on the Super Nintendo, so it's not like I really needed to play it on the Switch. Darn it, making my jumps too early. But it's still cool. I think it's cool to have games being released or remastered, but the price just has to be right to me. And for this being a $40 game, yeah, it's the collector's edition version, but there's no other way to buy it in a physical form at this time. I have not seen anything, stating that, hey, it's going to be sold out of the collector's edition. And the collector's edition is limited to 40,000 copies. So once that's done, is there going to be no more physical? And if they do continue it, will it just be $40 and not with the collector's edition extras? Which, to me is not really that big a deal, but the $40 price point is not, to me, worth it. Downloading it when it comes out at the end of July in the US for $20 is a little more fair, but I don't really want to do a digital download on something that has a physical release, and this is, released physically, so paying double for that for the collector's edition, I honestly don't think it's worth it. And to me, I'm not mad that I bought this game. Come on, man. See, this is kind of stuff that's frustrating. Like, it's very sensitive. The controls, nothing has changed. It's the same game. I'm still happy I bought it, though, which is what I was trying to say, I guess. And it's a really cool game to revisit. Oh my god. Do I not, like, why can't I shoot? There we go, finally. And it can definitely be a frustrating game, just like it was originally. There's no doubt about that. Nothing has changed. But the rewind feature definitely has helped with that a bit. So I think it would be kind of cool to show that, to actually show the rewind feature. So let me screw up real quick and get killed. I think there's a fall up here. I think I can actually just fall if I just walk this way. Yeah. So now we should be greeted with the rewind option. And like I said, depending upon which difficulty, you get so much rewind. But I do like that option. It does help a little bit. But ultimately it is cheating, no matter how you look at it. But it does help out, especially if, you know, you're getting overly frustrated. And like I said, this game can definitely get frustrating in a few spots. So, like I said, didn't want to do a full playthrough or really much with this. Just wanted to kind of showcase what the package includes. Okay. Had to rewind again. I guess I died mid-rewind. And I think it's a cool package, just a little bit overpriced for my taste. It will be released July 31st in the US in the whole collector package like I just shown. If you're interested, link will be in the description. Otherwise, if you just want the digital download, it'll be available same day, $20. Cool. If you're in Europe, it's already available for you guys, so peep it out. I'll have the UK link in the description as well. So there you go, guys. Are you interested in this game? I mean, I'm happy I got it, but I just wish it was cheaper. That's really all I could say about that. So I do appreciate you guys stopping in. Smash that like button. Drop a comment down below. Do all that cool stuff. I really do appreciate it. And with that said, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out. Bye-bye. Boom.